Getting your first client in the AI space is one of the hardest parts of starting this whole journey. However, I've got a simple system that will land you your first $3,000 AI client. And it's not even technical. I personally did this myself with my own brand, and my first client was $3,000 client. So this definitely works. So if sounds like something you're interested in, let's jump right into it, shall we? So like I mentioned, most people overcomplicate their first client, or their first high ticket client even. I mean, 3K is, relatively small in the grand scheme of things, but you don't need to be a builder. You just need a business model. You need to understand, what value can I provide? And it's fairly straightforward when we go through this framework, and you'll identify and you'll sort of get to the end of this video and say, that's what I can offer. This is how I do it. Let's go get it. And you will not take very long to find it, in all honesty. So all you really need is just a plan, really. So freelancers think every tool they master the workflow, then the clients come. They often think, I am a master at N8N, or I've learned this great thing. I know how to do lead generation through N8N. Everyone's going to come running to me, and it's going to be like there's movies where it's like I'm the hero, and then they go in their big wide world and no one comes, it's unfortunate, but it's a mindset that is sort of programmed into everyone. It's got nothing to do with the skills that you have. It's all about the business approach that you do. And this is why a lot of people never level up from their current level, or their current stage, I should say. So what clients actually want is a clear outcome. They want someone they can trust and a simple path to a return on their investment. And that's really all it is to it, right? People have this super complicated definition of, how to get my first big client, or, even just first client in general. And they're sort of, I need to learn this, I need to do that, and I need to offer this amazing package, and I need to, I need to talk to them every single day and give them updates, and, I need to be enthusiastic, I need to smile. Sure, some helps, you probably should smile. But really, it boils down to those three things: a clear outcome, someone they can trust, and a simple path to their return on investment, right? So the hire you, the outcome is, I will give you this, this software. This will reduce this pain point that you have, this bottleneck. And in doing it and showing your expertise, you actually become someone they can trust. And obviously at the end of it, you sort of say, by us implementing this, we're going to save X amount of hours, Y amount of dollars. And that's sort of the three things really that you need to get your first large client. So let's go through it in steps. Step one, you need a package. You need a clear outcome for a package, right? So automate your client onboarding so you save 10 hours per week. You sell the transformation, not tools. This is the exact flow, and I know this works because it's the exact flow I got my first retainer on, and it's also a very common flow I get requested for now. A lot of people, the front end systems are broken, so they obviously the highest priority is return on investment via lead generation or some sort of investment, a return on investment. But another huge factor that I would say 80% of businesses are struggling with is their onboarding. The moment between they sign a contract to actually delivering or starting to deliver the product, there's a gap. And it's always an onboarding in a sense, but it's always the thing that's just breaks, the first thing that breaks in the system. Probably because it's so close to sales. Once we influx the funnel from our lead generation, then that's going to be the first thing that breaks. People that don't have onboarding is usually the problem. They'll say, I don't have an onboarding problem, but they probably don't have an onboarding really. So onboarding is a excellent idea. And if it's your first time doing it, or your first client, then it's a perfect chance to do it. And I'll go through why in a sec. So onboarding, you can charge anywhere between $1,500, $2,000 to $5,000, depending on how complicated it is. It's a low enough number to say for them to say yes, and it's also there's a lot of value in it that you can sort of prove your worth, right? You're doing like a business process optimization. You're streamlining this whole thing, and it's a very tangible result. They can see the emails going out. They can see, once a contract is signed, everything triggers. Like all of these are very visible results. When you take something like lead gen, the results are, I sign up to you, and then meetings come in my calendar. If the meetings don't come in the calendar, it looks like I've done nothing, right? With onboarding flows, there's still emails being sent out, there's invites being sent out, maybe Slack channels being created. There's always multiple things that are happening, and the clients are always, they're seeing these new things being created. So it's provides a lot of value. Also, at around the $3,000 mark, we clear to cover any building costs and still leaves you with a margin. So it's a simple enough flow to cover and hire someone that's not going to cost 20 hours, 30 hours, and then reduce our margins to 20-30%. It should leave you to well over 50% margins. And if you're not going to hire someone, you could really do it yourself. The other great benefit for onboarding flows is that it's very simple. For example, make.com has a lot of the native nodes in the system. So really everything that you're going to do with an onboarding doesn't need all these HTTP requests and API points. 90% of them will just be built into make.com or Zapier. So an example, this was actually the first one that I did. My first automation, my first onboarding flow, and my first retainer. Really, so how it works is under these points here. This is the contract being signed. The moment that the contract is completed, as we can see down here, it then will wait a minute, obviously, to replicate human behavior. An onboarding email gets sent out here, and then we wait 5 minutes. These are to replicate, that a human is sending and doing all this stuff. And really, it's the robots. This client had a school community, so they then in their email address, they got invited to their school community. A new Slack channel was added, and they were then searched for and added to the Slack channel. So Slack is Slack has to work. You can't just add them in the channel. You need to create the Slack channel, then you need to search to make sure that the user actually, their email address is linked to Slack, or if they have an email address linked in Slack, and then you grab that email address and you put it in Slack. So that's why we had that. You can see obviously the router here is if the user is found, then we invite them to Slack. And if the user is not found, then an email gets sent to the client, the owner, and it says, hey, this person hasn't got a Slack email. You need to, just a heads up. And then an email gets sent to the actual client who signed the contract saying, hey, you haven't got a Slack account. Here's the login detail, or here's the sign up details, here's the link, and provides everything they need in there. So you can see this is a very tangible result, right? The moment that their not your client, but their client signs the contract, they get an onboarding email, a school community gets added, a member, a Slack channel gets added, they get added into the Slack channel. And it's very tangible results. So this is why we say, it's high enough to prove that this is a business process. So you could sell it on, I know what I'm doing. This is, I think, for a business to grow and to increase our top line revenue, we need to do X, Y, and Z. We need to incorporate an email, within a minute or two of the contract being signed. We need to give them some sort of value, add them to a Slack channel so it feels personal. So step 2, once you've done the offer, or you've worked out, maybe not an onboarding, but you've worked out your offer, you want to hire a builder for the delivery. The best way to do this is if you get $3,000, you want to try to keep the target at about 60% profit margin. So, $3,000, $1,200, hire a builder, and then pocket the rest is the best way to do it. when you're doing it, you'll want to do a fixed price. You can do an hourly price, but it's really hit and miss, how good the builders are really. So that's usually the easiest way. We can just go 0.6 times 3,000, I guess, if we're just selling it at 3,000. And then that will be, how much you keep, and the rest pay for the builder and all your tools and stuff. In doing this, obviously, we can then focus on strategy and client communication. We want to make sure this is heavy. Strategy, not so much, because obviously we can, it's fairly straightforward. If you're building a different flow other than onboarding, then maybe you do want to include a little bit of strategy. Client communication is the key here. You want to make sure that the client messages you and you reply straight away. You get an update, or maybe the builder, builds maybe this bit here. You message the client, hey, just on the contract and the onboarding email, going with the rest, just a quick update. This what really sells it for your first client. So now we have, a builder ready to go, and we have a package or an offer that we're going to sell. How do we find these people? Well, we can do LinkedIn DMs. When we do LinkedIn DMs, we want to send voice notes. Voice notes work absolutely fabulously in LinkedIn. If you can do a Loom video showing maybe the flow and how it works to them, depending on the time, you can only send about 20 LinkedIn DMs per day. But either a Loom video or a voice note works completely fine. From there, you sort of, hey, I got this flow, I think this will work for you, and just sell it from there. Cold emails, you can do mass cold email using lead generation methods such as LinkedIn Sales Navigator, Phantom Buster, and any mail finder is a very common 3-pronged approach. You can go to local business groups. So depending on your offer, this could work. Onboarding works very well for brick and mortar as well as digital ones. Digital marketing agencies work fabulously with onboarding because their onboarding is so heavy and clunky. They go collect a lot of details for login portals, assets. They're going to do market research. They're going to just get a lot of information from the client. So if you could free it up with an onboarding flow, it works great. So conversations go to booked call, then to one outcome offer. So we want to make sure that when we jump on the calls with these people, that we have the one outcome, and we sell, I do an onboarding flow or save you 10 hours per week, which will increase, your top line revenue from a reduction in staff wages by X amount of dollars. And it's a lot easier to sell on the call when you just have a single offer, especially when you're newer to the industry. So plenty of agencies hit this 10K with this one model. I've made nearly $25,000 just on onboarding flows alone. They're a fabulous tool to use. And the hardest part isn't the tech, it's actually committing to one offer, especially when you're starting. Mine was a very customized solution, but if you do yours as, I'm going to do onboarding flows, lead generation systems, hiring systems, you could do payroll systems, just stick to one flow, price it at $3,000, and then just build the flow and make sure that you're very knowledgeable in sort of the business aspect around it. So that being said, it would be, if you're doing payroll systems, we want to make sure that we know what type of payroll systems there are, legal, and is there any compliance issues that we need to solve? Is there going to be any down the stream effects, knock-ons for making a mistake? All that sort of stuff will bring us back to being the someone they can trust. So if you want exact playbooks, groups, hiring systems, I have a school community called AI Agency Builders, where we sort of teach all these. We give you all the tools to find your first clients and how to just either go in there as a freelancer to a agency, or just going from straight into an agency and scaling up past the 10, 20K per month mark with zero experience. So link for that is in the description down below. If you want to work with our team or you want to have a consultation, then the link is also down below. Other than that, I wish you a very good day. Thank you.